Anyway, I don't care.
Okay, welcome to the show for the very first time, but not the last. My good friend Olivier Day. Should I say bonsoir? Is it bonsoir
Oh,
or bonsoir
stop. Oh,
or
stop.
or
Bonsoir.
bonsoir?
Bonsoir. Comment
Bonne
ça va? All
journée.
that wonderful stuff.
Ça va, ça va. Welcome to the show. I feel so blessed to have this opportunity. As you know, this is something I haven't done for quite some time, and I'm talking months and months and months since I've put up an episode,
And that's
and
okay.
we'll get in. Oh yeah, no, totally. I have no I don't judge myself or I don't feel anything. I don't feel any certain way about it. But I do want to say, and we'll get into this. I want to say thank you for inspiring me to get back at it. So thank you, one, for doing that, and I'll tell you how that came about organically, if you will. And also thank you for your time because I know, much like everyone else in the world, but specifically for you as well, everyone's busy. So thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it.
You're a brother and a king. And you know what? It's only an excuse for us to, just link up because, of course, we do keep in touch on the WhatsApps and the texts and the DMs of the world. But
Mm-hmm.
nothing beats this connection. And we haven't done this in a really long time. But
Yeah.
it's an honor and a thrill and just a privilege to be back in your realm, brother. I am a bit intimidated because I know that conversations with you never leave me, you know, uninspired. So it's a thrill to be here, man. Thanks
Well,
so much
hey,
for having me.
yeah, man, I appreciate you being open to jumping in the water. I have to say, I think I've kind of pumped my brakes a bit on that, and not that I won't hold you and others that are in my circle accountable and push them to, um, if I can steal your line, awaken their own awesome. And I think a gift that I've been given is I see the Superman and Superwomen behind the regular clothes that people wear, and I see it within you. So when I have ever pushed you in the past, it's only because I see it within you and I want to pull it out. So
I do appreciate it, of course.
thank you for putting up with me and being willing to jump into this deep end here on this episode. And before we get too long winded, which is definitely my shtick, to use one of your words, I like how you use shtick. Um, let the people know that may not, which I can't believe how they wouldn't, because you're Olivier Day, you've got a great podcast,
Oh,
you're like
stop.
you're like the handsomest guy in Montreal, in Quebec as a province. Um, so yeah, let us know who you are, uh, what you do, and I mean everything, all encompassing what you do, and why you do what you do.
Uh, I I'm very uncomfortable with that question because that's the one thing because like I don't know because it's just I'm such a humble person. I'm so like so like I'm not used to talking about myself. But hey, Olivier Day, born in Ottawa, raised in Haiti, Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Mother, father, older sister, younger brother. We weren't rich, we weren't poor. We saw a really obvious difference. When you grow up in a third world country, you understand the realities of the haves and the have nots because they're all in one melting pot. It's not one haves are in one community and the have nots are in another community, and those worlds never collide. Those worlds seriously do collide. Our parents raised us on the values of you know celebrate who you are, be respectful, fear no one, respect all, stand your ground, always strive for excellence. My father was raised military. My mother was the daughter of two academics, school teachers, principals in their own right. So education and books were really big where I grew up. Open conversations about whatever topics, whether it be philosophy, chemistry, mathematics. That was really a lot of stuff that was going on at the table. Not too much of a weird growing up. Like I grew up really close to my siblings, which I still am right now. Um, my parents always sent us into the world, always taught us how to rely on ourselves, not just on each other, but also on ourselves. So I've always been very self reliant as an individual. Came to Montreal, wasn't the best kid in school, like academic wise. I had a lot of tough times in the late years of high school. Came to Montreal for college, did a bit of journalism, did a bit of communication. That didn't really work out too well when I realized that, you know what? this is not my path, because I was really raised very traditionally. So either I was going to be a doctor like my mom, or something of the other, like, something really classical, like a lawyer, an engineer, or something. That never worked. I was always the black sheep of my siblings. So when I came to Montreal, I realized that I wasn't on my path. I was like, you know what? I can't keep racking up this school debt and not even knowing where I'm headed. So I told my mom, like, you know what? I'm just gonna stop this right now until I figure my shit out. But excuse the language. So the school of life came around. Been on my own a really long time. Not a lot of fun circumstances. I've been broke, hired, fired, all that wonderful stuff. Met my girlfriend, now my wife. Three beautiful kids. Um, One no longer with us. Um, right now, did a lot of things corporate wise, like, did so many jobs. Worked in telecommunication, worked in sales, worked in customer service, security, healthcare. A lot of stuff. I even worked in vacuums for a long time. Right now, when I decided to take a step back from all the corporate stuff, right now, as of late, I'm working for a construction company, basically 9 to 5. Been working there for about 5 years. But in all that creative shtick, parallel to that, my forte has always been communication. That's why I started the Awaken the Awesome podcast about 6 years ago, born of a personal chapter of like depression and just inward dialogue where I was really not doing too well. But I actually used that as kind of a personal diary of sorts to, just chronicle my journey and connecting with people such as yourself, you know, and opening doors and connecting with human experiences and reminding myself that we're not so special that we're the only ones going through what we're going through. And it's been a fun ride up to this point. Built a community, built a lot of fun connections along the way. And this is where we are. Long ass resume. Apologize for that, man.
I thought that was pretty succinct. I mean, for those that listen to me go, that was probably about 1/16 of what I would have done. So well done. Um, Tell me more about the podcast. Tell me more about um, the realities of it. Tell me what it does for you. Tell me what you think it does for others. Tell me why it exists. I mean, you mentioned that it's kind of was born out of necessity. You called it somewhat of a diary for yourself to help you at a time in your life when you felt you needed it, and what a great platform to share. But what is the podcast at its core, and yeah, what do you think it does for others, and what does it do for you?
I think it brings it home that, as I like to tell myself and others, you don't have to be a superstar to be a superstar. A lot of us like to look at the Tony Robbins and the Richard Bransons and, all the high achievers of this world, which you should. They've done a lot of great things. But at the same time, you also bring it home that these people are people too. And you might be sitting right next to someone who has just an impactful story or impactful lesson, or as an inspiring journey for you to take lessons from. And at that point in my time, I was like, I was not doing too well. I was not applying what I believe to be some of the basic core principles that are supposed to make a balanced and, um, awesome life. And what I mean by awesome, I'm done talking about curing cancer. I'm not talking about writing a next bestseller. It's about feeling whole. It's about feeling fulfilled. It's about feeling like you're waking up with intentional purpose and intentional action. And some things are learned, and I really do believe that. And that when I boil it down, I realize that, everybody understands love, everybody understands fear, everybody understands wanting to do better, not just for yourself, but for someone you care about. Everybody understands wanting to, be financially independent, or want to be smarter, or wanting to grow as a person. Nobody just wants to wake up, just run the mill and just die. And going through all those conversations in my head, I'm like, I'm wondering if I'm the only person who can understand that. And turns out, no. And, what the podcast, I believe, brings home is the fact that, what? Normal people, regular people. And I'm putting myself out there as kind of a audio guinea pig, if you will, showing people that, what? Stick your neck out, take chances, meet people, ask around, learn lessons, apply them. Don't be afraid to look stupid, just do whatever inspires you, you know as long as you can live with those decisions, you can live with the discomfort of going outside of your own comfort zone. Look at these people who have done just that and what they're accomplishing in that process. So I don't pay to make it any more complicated than that. These are stories that I believe that anyone can learn from, and by keeping them human, by keeping them, approachable and relatable, that's why I believe that a lot of people resonate with it. That was my intention almost in the beginning, bringing it that we're all people too, and we're all in this together.
Hmm. Beautiful. What's been the most impactful podcast that you've facilitated yourself, where you've uh, hit the stop button, the episode's over, you say your goodbyes, but just something about that interaction with that person really sticks with you? Who was it, and what was said, or what impacted you?
Don't ask me to pick my favorite child, dude. But
It's
you
not
know
saying your
how.
favorite child, just like I'm just saying the most impact. I mean, you could have different. It's
Mm-hmm.
like that's like saying, when I say impactful, I didn't say the funniest or the most
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable. So it's like asking someone their favorite movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's your favorite comedy? What's your favorite thriller? So I'm asking you, as far as a theme, as far as you walked away from it feeling like it was the most impactful. Um, what was
Wow.
it? Why was that? And who was it?
Wow. Um, I have to say, just taking it at random right now, I have to say, and I believe I said before, I believe that so far one that has really stayed with me is when I did with Thierry Lindor. He's a very big personality here in Montreal, but he's done a lot for the community. When I met him, he was mostly active in the real estate space, the influencer space, social media mogul and stuff. Right now, he's mostly taking a lot of not interest, but he's really putting a lot of effort towards, social justice, causes, and Black Lives Matter, and taking a lot of his energy, just bringing to light some injustices, not just locally but internationally, and like bringing a lot of his knowledge, expertise, and connections into highlighting the difficulties that we have to go through as a Black community. And I really admire him for that. But at the time, the conversation I had with him really brought it home in terms of because he was doing so many things. Like, he's an entrepreneur, of course, because he's just run. I think about him like, our local Gary Vee of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so active and proactive. And one thing he said to me in that conversation was, I guess, his own guiding principles. What are you willing to suffer for?
Mm-hmm.
Those words still resonate with me, even like, almost 200 episodes in. I always keep bringing that back, to all the episodes I come back to when I am up at 4 a.m. doing some editing, or like, trying to pitch a guest, or trying to finish a book because I'm so distracted. I'm just trying to read. And I'm like, okay, I need to finish this material. I need to learn how these process. I need to learn how to edit video. Just like going through the muck of sorts, right? Just whether it's being a father, not just on the podcast, but also in the real world. Because hey, I have a life. But every time I think about those words, it really brings it home. You know, he's a
Mm-hmm.
guy who's taken shots publicly, whether on social media. He's stuck his neck out, for something he believes in. And I really take that to heart. What are you willing to suffer for? How much does whatever it is, insert whatever you want, how much does that matter to you? And what are you willing to put yourself through to see it through? And a lot of us can relate to that. And whatever it wants to be, whether it's losing weight, whether it's writing a book, whether it's riding a bike, whether it's being a good husband or a good employee, what are you willing to suffer for? To be and learn these processes, to change your life, to become financially independent, whatever it is for you, what are you willing to suffer for? And for me, that's been one of very, very impactful episodes so far.
Mm-hmm. So for you, is it one thing, or is it a multitude of things? Is it a list?
Oh, it's a list. It's a list. It's a list. It can't just be one thing. For me, I believe that growth is like let's call it a Lego castle of sorts, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a bunch of different pieces, and some pieces fit for me and not may not fit for you. So that's why I believe every story is we as individuals are a tapestry of experiences, emotions, habits, systems, processes, thought processes, words. So my Lego blocks probably don't fit your personal journey, what you see for yourself, but it is an assembly of like there's always a core foundation, but for me, it's a whole host of things, which is why these conversations always leave me stoked, because like, hey, there's a nugget. This is so cool. I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it really keeps me humble, because there's always room to learn and there's always room to grow. And I never let myself forget that. I always try to stay very alert to the fact that, what, there's always room to grow.
Mm-hmm. Changing speeds a bit. Let's talk about goals. Um, we just wrapped up uh, the second quarter of the year,
Mm-hmm,
meaning we're 6 months through. If you
mm-hmm,
recognize the quarters, four
mm-hmm,
months.
mm-hmm.
Um, sorry, 3 months. Pardon me. So every 12 weeks. Do you goal set When do you
Mm-hmm.
goal set?
Mm-hmm.
How do you goal set? What are your goals the next 12 weeks? What are your goals the next 90 days? What were your goals the last 90 days? Did you achieve them? How do you measure all this stuff?
I encourage a lot of people to read a wonderful book by Brian P. Moran called The 12-Week Year, which really drills it down, um, how important it is to be very clear about your goals and to, be very um, vicious in terms of how you're going to execute them. Everything can be boiled down to a set of processes. But for me, pen and paper always works. I don't make it complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Evernote, whatever works for you. I have notes on my phone, but nothing beats pen and paper because you know what? There comes a little bit of accountability when you grab a pen, you grab a paper, and you're just like, you give life to this intention into the universe. You need a timeline. Nothing lights fire up your ass than having a timeline. You need to know when I sit down for an editing session, I know that between this time and this time, I have to get this done because I always bring it back to a talk that Zig Ziglar was giving. That he said, like, okay, if I came up to you right now with an all expenses paid vacation to Mexico and I told you you had to leave tomorrow, I can bet your sweet ass that you'd be ready. You'd find whatever way possible to be ready and be on that plane. All right. So I wish people were a little bit more intentional and be a little bit more proactive, with their own lives and their own goals, no matter how small, no matter how big. But I have to be very clear as to what I want, whether it's for tomorrow, whether it's for next week. I do that for work. I do that for time with my kids. I do that for time with my wife. I do that for editing sessions on the podcast. I do that with, setting goals with having people on the podcast. And again, I am not perfect. I'm going to stress that out. I am a married father of two young children working a very demanding 9 to 5. Okay. So yes, I do fall off. Yes, I do have days where I hate myself, where I do have days I'm just not feeling it. So I get those feelings to anyone listening to this. But the point is to show up. So how do I goal set? It has to be very intentional. It has to be whether on a weekly basis, a bi-weekly basis, monthly basis, 6 month basis, yearly basis. And your goals can be short term, long term, or extra long term, you know? For myself, just giving an example right now, this, I've been trying to write a book and get it out my head for a long time. Last year we failed. We got it back on the docket. Now, what I did was also something that's very practical. You reach out to people who've done it before you. So I reached out to two writer friends of mine, and they gave me a lot of tips to say, okay, so first of all, we need to get the draft out by this time. We need to do some edits by this time. And what's your realistic timeline? Okay, what is the realistic? Let's be real here. Let's be real. Let's not just say because it's pretty, but let's be real. Okay. And okay, let's write a first draft. These are tactics, whether we're going to record it and put in Otter for transcribing. There are ways. There are ways. All right. And my ways may not be the best for you, but there are ways. And you know what? You will find your own formula, but as basic as I can put it, write it down, have a timeline, have a deadline, be real about your shortcomings, okay, and be intentional about it. And of course, always reassess at the end of the week or at the end of the next 2 weeks. How far have you gone, and where can we readjust? So, basic tips.
Love that, man. That's so practical. Thank you for sharing that. One thing that just came up for me was you shared the word realistic. And someone once said um, they don't set realistic goals ever because nothing of impact was ever realistic. And I
Ooh,
always think of
ooh,
Roger Bannister, the 4 Minute Mile.
mm-hmm,
Whenever I'm sitting down and I'm pontificating life and what's next for me and what I feel like I can achieve, and I think of Roger Bannister. Before he did it, no one
mm-hmm,
thought you could break a 4 minute mile.
mm-hmm,
That was an unrealistic goal, right?
mm-hmm.
So humor me on how do you temper realistic and unrealistic goals? And do you find yourself more often than not setting quote unquote realistic goals?
If I wanted to make $1 million by tomorrow, in my head, in my own reality, in my own understanding, I would believe that's pretty unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's just me. All right. I don't have the resources. I don't have the connections. I don't have the product. I don't have the service. I don't have the expertise. I don't have the client base. I just don't. Okay. So you have to know what you have in your hand. Do the best you can where you are and what you have. Based on what I have in my hands right now, in my current reality, with what I have, I will not make $1 million tomorrow. That is very realistic. But is it realistic to say I can make $1 million in the next 5 years? That's
Mm.
realistic. A lot of people are doing it. A lot of people are making $1 million, like, between nine next year. They're in real estate, they're in different, whether in crypto whatsoever. We're not going to get into that. But I'm intelligent enough to know that we live in a world where, certain things that were thought to be unrealistic are a lot more achievable now, like the 4 minute mile. All right. So you need to know, again, you need to know thyself, right? You need to know thyself. I never thought I could finish a Spartan race, like ever, until I woke up one day and said, you know what, I'm gonna go to Mont Tremblant, and come what may, I'm gonna finish it. Ankles be damned. I was sweating in pain. I was blistered all over, but I finished it. Right. But you still gotta show up. You only know it's unrealistic if you don't show up. It's always gonna be unachievable if you don't show up, because that's one guarantee you'll always have. If you don't show up, of course you're never gonna get it done. But for me, um, I'm not afraid to look stupid. I'm not afraid to just try shit out. I'm not afraid to just, like, just, okay, let's figure this out. We've never done this before, but let's figure it out. As I said, with the trip, you'll figure it out. If it matters enough to you, you will figure it out. But, you also have to know, as coming back to it, know where you stand, know what your resources are, and know how far you can take this. And you know what? If you do it shorter, in a shorter time, bless you. If it takes you a little bit longer, fine. But as long as you keep showing up and bring in that consistency, bring in that intention, I believe you got something good going for you.
So do you think Roger Bannister ever stepped up to the clock thinking, I can't do it? I can't do that tomorrow. It's impossible.
No, that's why I love you, man. It's like, I can't speak for him, but as Les Brown put it, because he told that story, it's so wonderful. All he had to tell himself is that it's possible. It's possible, because once you set that intention, once you spend
Exactly.
those words into the world,
So
once you
so
push
yeah,
those words into the world, it's
exactly.
like, you're already
It
setting the intention to you. It increases the reality
in-
for you.
increases the probability. So
Yeah.
I'm just so, and I'll get back to what I was saying earlier in the
Mm.
podcast when we first started off and why I was motivated to ask you and come back on and record and do this all again. But I was surprised to hear you say that I can't make $1 million tomorrow.
But where I stand right now, okay,
But that's just it.
it's
But
mhm,
what you're looking at right now is
mhm.
what is is now and behind you. You have no idea what tomorrow holds. So
Okay,
if you woke up with the openness to that anything could happen. I could make $1 million today.
okay,
That would probably give you more of a chance to make 500,000, a quarter of a million. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like
yeah, right.
so many people prescribe
Hmm.
to the mindset of I can't, therefore I won't.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to say is, look, hey, I haven't done much of anything in my 40 years when I look at someone like a Roger Bannister or someone like a Kanye West or someone
Hmm.
like all these people that have done
Hmm.
remarkable things in their space. But I'm willing to go, I can do that.
It's possible.
And then if I don't, guess what? I did it that day, which I'm sure Roger Bannister, many tries, and I don't know the story behind it fully, but I'm sure many attempts failed. But I guarantee you, he either protected that energy
Hmm.
like it was his firstborn child,
Yeah.
or had team of people around him that whenever he was doubting himself and being quote unquote too realistic,
Hmm.
they were like, snap out of it, Roger. Come on, you can do this.
Right.
Whereas if you think you can't, you
You're right.
likely won't. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
If you think you can't, you're
And
right.
it's just I'm
That's
just
why I love you, man.
oh
You're
I'm just
always bringing back.
I just want to I want to challenge this rhetoric that, I mean, why do you, not just you, but people listening,
Hmm.
why do you believe what you believe about money? Why do you believe what you believe about relationships? Why
Mm-hmm.
do you believe what you believe about health and wellness? All of these things is because they are stories. They're literally just stories. And you get to choose, like in this moment, you get to choose what things mean. That to me is the most powerful
This is
tool
true.
that we have.
This is true.
So is it possible? Is it possible that you could make $1 million tomorrow? I think absolutely
It
yes.
is. It is possible if
But
we subscribe to the idea. Yeah,
what you're basing it off of is you haven't done it before,
this is true.
right? Whereas you don't know what could happen tomorrow. Someone could, so I could take a clip from this podcast, this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
I could put it up on my social media. Someone, I don't know, I'm sure someone I follow is a millionaire, and he goes, I'm going to prove that guy wrong. He's going to call you up and say, I'm not going to pay you $1 million. I'm going to pay you 750, and here's why. Da, 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
Just things
Makes
things
sense.
happen.
It
Anyway,
makes sense. But just piggybacking what you're saying, and it's weird. I'm not sure if it's gonna be a little bit related. I'm just gonna throw it out there anyway. For me, it's not the I lived what you just said, but not in the form of money. For me, it's about realizing the amazing quality and catalog of guests I've managed to have on this podcast, where in my head
mm-hmm.
I was just like,
They wouldn't
how the
come.
hell
They
did this
wouldn't come.
happen?
Yeah, yeah.
They would never come. And I just kept entertaining that idea. You know what? One email, a second email, a follow up, courtship, courtship, courtship. And when that kept happening, I'm like, oh damn, I got something here.
Yeah,
So you know what? It's fun. Like you said, it's funny to hear me say that when I've been doing it parallel in some other format,
yeah,
somewhere
exactly.
else,
So whether
not in the
it's
form of money, but for
yeah,
me, it's worth as much, if not even more, you know,
mm-hmm.
just felt like saying that.
Well, it shows you the power of belief. It shows you the power of thought. It shows the power of manifestation, power of mindset, all these things, and call it woo woo, whatever you want. But it's now there's science. Like people have shown that you can literally change your like the biology of the brain, like the biology of belief. There's actually a book. Um, I've forgotten his name, but it's over there on my shelf. Biology of
Mhm.
belief. It's a literal thing where it's epigenetics, the study of epigenetics, which is just such an incredible thing.
Earl
Um,
Nightingale said that you are what you think about.
yeah,
You
it's
literally shift your reality. But when you basically understand and believe that you are what you think about, whatever you believe,
mm-hmm,
you will achieve.
mm-hmm. Shout out. Um, yeah, so talking about that reminds me of, and I thought it was such a cool documentary or special on Netflix. It was the Kanye West one, and I've never been a massive
I
Kanye
haven't
West
seen it.
fan, but I have to say, watching that, I was just like, man, he inspires me, dude, because you know what he says to everyone that's trying to be quote unquote normal? He's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going the opposite way. And one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite quotes about being normal is, um, what's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly.
Ah,
And I love that because just like what you think is normal or what you think is um what's the word? Uh realistic,
mm-hmm.
right? I might not because I have a different story. I have a different like you for example, if I came to you and said, "Hey, Olivier, I'm thinking about asking X guest on my show, but they're not going to do it." You, because of your experience, you'd be like so fired up. You'd be like, "Oh my
Like
god,
don't even say
just
that.
exactly, just send some emails, just like positive vibes, be there, like because you've seen it and you've done it, right?"
Yep. Yep.
So, and then it just reminds me of the Kanye West special where he shared that he would be before he even had his first record deal, he'd be walking in the streets of New York, vocally, like saying out loud his Grammy speech,
Wow.
right?
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and,
I didn't
I
know
think
that.
of fighters. Do you think Conor McGregor, as he was coming up and hadn't done anything yet,
Mm-hmm.
do you think he allowed for himself not to think he was the best in the world?
I would
You think
like to have Connor on. I really would.
there you
Like
go.
he's on my list. Like I would love to have Connor on. Like even 15 minutes. That would be a gem.
Anyway, just so people like that, I'm just like, you know what? They just say they flip the bird, if you will, to
Mm-hmm.
everyone that says you can't do that. They say, you know what? Watch me.
They don't believe in the status quo. Like
Yeah,
Thank you. Doubt me, haters.
exactly. Exactly. So when you say that, um, it just reminded me and it triggered me. It triggered me to say, no, man, like to me reality is boring, dude. Like boring. And whose reality, right? Who thinks that's realistic?
There you go. There you go. That's those limitations, which is why in some regards I've also become very impatient, or just let's just call it intolerant with some conversations, contents, or people, where I don't entertain, certain conversations anymore, because I don't need that energy. I don't even want to let it reach my subconscious. Like, you want to be in those limiting beliefs, and you want to be in that cycle of martyrdom, and just like woe is me type of thing. You do you. It is not my responsibility to cater to your insecurities. All right.
Right.
If you want to reach me, this is where I'll be, and all the best to you if you don't.
That's why I reached out. That's why I wanted to do the podcast with you because I feel like you got an extra little bit of sass lately. I feel like I feel like all of us, there's peaks and valleys with our exposure on social media. I myself took a week or no, week and a half off not too long ago, and it's just refreshing just not to be
Isn't it?
in it and on it. And then I came back and I just feel like Olivier Day is just like throwing some heat. So like
I'm
just
sorry, not sorry.
so educate me, educate us. What's real? Where's this coming
Um,
from?
I don't believe that I am doing you a service. If you're listening to my podcast for entertainment, I haven't done a good job. If you're listening to my podcast to actually want to grow, and if you think that these stories can actually help you, and if you think you can actually take one lesson from one story for 1 minute of the content that I've tried and put a lot of effort to putting you out there, that's the goal. But I'm not here to just listen to stories of martyrdom. Like, if you're going to come to me and ask for my help, and you want my consult, you want my advice, and if you're going to turn around and do whatever the hell you want anyway, which has been your destructive pattern in the first place, um, I'm not doing that anymore. Because for the longest
Ooh.
time, right now, for the longest time, I was that guy. I was the person who would be there and listen to you for like 30, 45 minutes and entertain you into your stories of, like, this is what's going bad in my life. These are the mistakes. These are the things I don't like. Like, okay, so let's change that. It's like, oh, I don't like, I'm just trying to just rationalize it. I don't like this particular part of where my life is. Like, okay, what does a good version of your life look like? Well, I don't know. It's like, okay, so what exactly are we talking about? Do you, when you call me, do you just want me to just listen and make you feel good? Or are we actually actively trying to, push the needle forward, whatever that looks like? All right. So, yes, I have been a little bit more vicious, if not to say a little bit more direct, in the little messages I put out. I'm still trying to be inspiring and encouraging and giving you practical, proactive messages throughout, whether it's the tweets or whatever. But I'm being very clear. You know what? It's going to take some work. It's going to suck before it gets better. You are responsible for you, not me. Okay. Which is why I tell people I would make a terrible life coach. I would make a terrible life coach, because I would either slap you in the face or kick you in the mouth. I can't do that. I can't, because a lot of people just want to feel good. And it's a dirty little secret most people in the self-help industry will never admit, but they profit off your insecurity, because they know that 90% of you won't do the work. All right. There's a big reality in that. We buy the books, we sign up for the classes, we have all the audio books and all that jazz. All right. But have you actually done the work? And that's a huge part a lot of people will not admit to, is that they did not do the work. And then when it doesn't work out over the next year, when you haven't done a single step of what you should do, it's going to take time. It's going to take months, years. It takes a lot of time. It took me 6 years to change what's in this head. All right. And I'm still working on myself. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm a hell of a lot farther than where I used to be. But that takes work. But most people aren't willing to do the work. And that's one thing I am a little bit more irritated with, because we have got all these people out here saying, like, oh, yeah, I get you. Yeah, I want to live life. I want to do this. I want to change my life. I'm going to go at it. And then let's say, like, okay, let's go. Step one, let's go. Let me get back to you on that. I got to go watch some Stranger Things. Like, I I'll be over here, which is why, you know what? I make no apologies for it. I've diluted a bunch of relationships. I don't entertain some people anymore. I, just would call it isolating myself from some social gatherings whatsoever. And I'm okay with that because I need more structure. I need more clarity. I need less distraction because guess what? We all got shit to do. I have power players in my circle like you, like so many people who I know are about that. See, I don't call you to annoy you. When I send you great energy, I do that willingly and of heart because I care about you. But I don't do that for most people anymore. You know what? Because a lot of people are just, I have to say, just like being around you without bringing anything forward. I'm
Mm.
sorry. Did I go off on a rant there?
No, it was good. So so what are you doing then? Like bring me up to speed. Like what's changed
Mm.
for you? Are you like getting up earlier? It sounds like you're like eating nails for breakfast and you're
Well,
drinking a
no.
gallon of water and
I if we're gonna take my daily grind, I wake up around like 4:30 ish. I go downstairs, do some meditation, do some prayer, do some exercise, go down in the kitchen, make myself a coffee, catch up on some emails. Suppose I sent the lead last night, see if the client reply, see if the guest replied, do the lunch boxes, just get breakfast ready for the kids, take out their clothes, making sure like, when that's done, I take a shower, get on the emails for work, and around like 6:30, get the kids out of bed, shower. I'll do the wonderful drop off the kids stuff, and throughout the day, just like get in the car, just listen to motivational stuff whatsoever. I don't listen to music like unless like late in the afternoon after work, like when I get off at 5 ish between the office and getting to pick up the kids. I listen to some music, like some Haitian music, just to relax and ungrind. But throughout the entire every time I'm in my car, you'll hear Les Brown, you'll hear Zig Ziglar, you'll hear a bunch of like your traditional like Earl Nightingale. So just to keep myself in my brain, just audiobooks. Just I have to keep my brain active. I take a lot of notes throughout the day. I get back to a lot of like like I call my power circle, like people, like my accountability group, like, okay, and where are we at with the book? I have a friend who's helping me with my marketing on the website, trying to help me with my social media, trying to help me with like, my SEO for the podcast. There's strategies to this shit. A lot of stuff I've been doing on the indie for a long time, but I realize that right now there's a science to everything. So I'm really active throughout the day, call my wife at lunch, at home. By the time we get home after school, after work, just have supper. Between 5 and 7 is family time, so we do nothing of that. So after 7:30, put the kids to bed, read the stories and stuff. Just kiss the wife if I have a recording at that night. Just do that. If I have to do some editing, I'll do that to maybe around, depending on the session, obviously between nine ish, 9:30, and just do some reading. Or just like write my gratitude list, for the evening. Just call my mom, tell her I love her, and then around 10:30, go to bed.
dang, that's a full day.
Yeah.
How do you define success?
um Success. Success is looking at your life and being not just grateful, but satisfied with everything you've achieved so far,
Mm,
everything you set out for yourself. As long as it was set out for yourself, it's something that you set out intentionally. If it's the result of your own inherent efforts and dedication and sacrifice, blood, sweat, and tears, taking 2 seconds to take it all in and be inherently satisfied with it,
mm,
whether it be financially, whether it be spiritually, whether it be because there are layers to this. There's a wonderful concept called the 8 dimensions of wellness. People should look into it. But if you can actually look at all those facets and be okay with every single one, I believe that's success.
mm,
Right? Because for some people it's money. For some people it's the Lamborghini, you know. Part of my dream at some point was like getting the Range Rover. It's still there. it's on the vision board. All right. But a really big success for me was like building a loving family. For me, that
mm,
was one of my core values because I grew up in a very tight knit circle of like I don't have that story of like my parents were divorced and everything. No, we were a loving family. I cherish my parents. I cherish my brother and sister. You know, we love each other, and something I really wanted to bring into my own journey. I have a wife who loves me. We went through thick and thin together. We just celebrated 13 years of marriage.
Shout out.
18 years together, and it's been a hell of an adventure. Like my minions keep me up at night, but still, I love them to death. I would wrestle a polar bear for them. For me, that's huge. That's huge. Because you hear so many stories of like broken homes and all that stuff. But even the pandemic was the result of a lot of broken homes and a lot of broken families. And those
Mm,
stories are very real. But it's one thing that I don't have to think about. So for me, in that sense, I'm also a success. Now I have other goals, other ambitions, obviously, but we take it a day at a time. And your success list can be malleable. You can modify some things. Some things that matter to you at 20 probably don't matter to you at 40. So you
mm-hmm.
also have to be open to that. We are human beings after all.
What color is Range Rover?
It's silver.
Mm,
It's silver. It's got some black linings and a black grill. I don't do the all blacked out rims, so those are going to stay silver as well. We've got some beige cushioning. I don't do leather, but apparently those are really cool. It's got a
mm,
kick-ass sound system though. That I'm all
mm.
about the sound. I'm all about the sound. It's like, oh, this that thing has got to explode the neighborhood. Just taking a joyride on the highway from here to Ottawa and just chilling.
What does the steering wheel feel like in your hand?
It's very rugged. It's
Mm,
very, just smooth and just like because I was being raised in Haiti. My father was a civil engineer, so we were on the job sites a lot. So I'm always about looking for that ruggedness, that
mm,
refined ruggedness. There is that part of the luxury, but I'm also
mm.
looking for that ruggedness in it. So it's very stiff. It's very, how can I say it? No, I can't
De-
use another word. It's just really rugged.
dependable.
Yes.
What is does this do the seats have air conditioning in the hot summer and heated in the winter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes,
Mm,
please. My wife is going to thank me for those because she loves seat warmers. She
nice.
loves them.
Sunroof?
Not, no, not really. Not necessary.
No.
No, not really.
Okay. And then is it one row, two rows? How many seats?
It's third or one's 3 rows.
Three rows. So seven
3 rows.
seater.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. For those of you listening, that's what you need to be doing. You need to be looking at things in the now. You need to be looking at it like you're experiencing it. I would actually take Olivier a step further and ask him to close his eyes. So it's like if I asked you right now, every one of you listening, and Olivier as well, if I asked you to close your eyes and pretend you are holding a rose and really focus on that rose, and I asked you to feel with your hands the petals of the rose, your mind could start to feel in your hands what that felt like.
This is
Then if
true.
I then if I asked you to breathe that rose in, the aroma, put your nose into it. What does it smell like? It's sweet, it's floral, obviously it's a flower. Your brain starts not even knowing the difference between it being there and it not being there. And if you look at epigenetics, if you look at the science of the mind, when we do these things, when we put ourselves in that actual space, like I'm sure, taking it back, Roger Bannister did, he likely stood there and watched his body run a 4 minute mile before he ever did it. And then what transpired was a 4 minute mile. So if you sit there and you do the rose practice and you feel it and you smell it, I won't guarantee it, but I would be very surprised if somehow, some way, a rose doesn't appear in your life. So I encourage you, Olivier Day, if $1 million is a goal that you have, if the Range Rover is something you truly want, in your morning meditations when you're having that time to yourself, take some time to put yourself in that vehicle. Feel the steering wheel. Feel the air conditioning on your back. Listen to the music, because right away you're going to have that Haitian music cranked up and your brain's not going to know the difference whether you're in that vehicle or you're not. And that is going to send out a vibration. And that vibration is going to be to the universe. And whether you believe in God or Mother Nature or Allah or Buddha or whatever, that energy is palpable
Mm-hmm.
and it will be picked up on. So
Mm-hmm.
whether you're listening to this or you're here live, Mr. Day, I encourage you, be unrealistic. There is no rose in your hand. But does your mind know there isn't one? And
Hmm.
once you set your mind on that path,
Mm-hmm.
get out of my way. Do you think Conor McGregor never pictured the belt going around his body,
There you go.
right?
There you go.
Do you think Mike Tyson never envisioned knocking his opponent out? I guarantee you there was like he
Not a
would
doubt in his mind that he would be the
visualize that.
champ.
Do you think Elon Musk doesn't sit there and literally put himself in the space that he needs to be in to create what he creates? Absolutely. So
Absolutely.
why can they do it, yet we're afraid to?
We're afraid to.
So I would say, put your order in, folks. Put your order in. And check out Neville Goddard as well.
Okay.
He does a lot of that. He's no longer with us. I think it was like back in the 50s or the 60s where he really started tapping into the power of the mind and
Mm-hmm.
manifestation. And yeah, listening to you talk about your Range Rover, I wanted to get a little more detail from you
Mm-hmm.
because there's power in that, man.
Yeah. Would you believe it? It's on every single digital screen I have, whether it's the
Mm-hmm.
iPad or the phone or my desktop at work, this computer here, it's everywhere. So I've triggered my mind to see Range Rovers everywhere. Like I talk about it nonstop. It's like, how are you gonna get the Range Rover? You'll see. I don't know yet.
And what is that in the mind? Do you know?
Hmm?
Do you know what actually is in the mind and why you see it now?
It's exposure. It's triggering. It's enlightenment. It's like it's making the mind aware
No,
because
but it's an actual thing that we all have. Like this is not philosophical. This is science. It's actually called your RAS, your reticular activating system.
okay.
If I asked you right now, Olivier, go into your kitchen and get me your spatula.
Uh-huh. I know exactly where it is.
But not only do you know exactly where it is, when you open the drawer, are you is your mind going to be looking for shapes that look like a knife,
No,
like a spoon,
no,
like a cat?
no.
Your eyes, because of your brain, is going to be looking for in the environment things that match your goal that you set for your RAS.
Mm-hmm.
If you and I were driving right now in a busy parking lot and I'm in the passenger seat and we're looking for a parking spot without actually saying anything but thinking I'm looking for a parking spot, what does your brain automatically look for?
Well,
Go.
empty spaces, parking spots.
Empty spaces, maybe people walking to their cars, maybe brake lights, maybe
Mm-hmm.
revert, all these things, right? But you don't think that consciously.
No.
You don't say, where is an empty space? Where is the brake lights? Your brain literally scans the environment to find things to support your goal. So if you say, like you actually vocalize, I'm fat,
Hmm.
I'm poor,
Hmm.
I'm a bad husband, I'm a bad partner, I'm a bad father, all of these things, you are literally, and I encourage everyone to spend time on this, looking at your RAS. You're literally
Mm-hmm.
telling the computer that you have in your brain to find things in your environment to support what you just told it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you said anything is possible, or like you've mentioned a couple times, I'm so grateful, it literally will find things in your environment to be grateful for.
I was telling someone really close to me this just today. Like, stop entertaining comments or words of scarcity, as in
Mm,
like, oh,
abundance.
things are so hard. Uh, what things are so scary and things are waking up. I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's true for some people. It doesn't have to be true for you,
Mm,
right? Because you've got more abundance around you than most, right? If you take into account statistically, even statistically, everything that you have right now in your possession as an asset, as an opportunity, as abundance, the abundance mindset. I know it's again, a couple of years ago, Brad, we would never be having this conversation because I would not believe you. But I truly and honestly feel so jazzed when I just understand how grateful I am. When you feel full, when you feel overwhelmingly grateful for everything that you have. And I'm like, yo, there's so much to do, so much great stuff. And you know what? It's gonna take some work, but you know what? Let's get at this because look at all that we've done so far.
mm-hmm,
Let's get at this. Don't
mm-hmm.
entertain scarcity anymore. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. Like, listen, I've done that. And you know what? Let's go forward. Let's go forward, because we've done that. So I need to see what's over there because I'm liking that energy over there. I
Hmm.
enjoy it. That's where I
Yeah,
am.
for me, it's also about what are you actually in control of. Let's spend time on that. Let's not spend time on things we're not in control of. Like
Mm-hmm.
the amount of conversations that I've similar to you. I necessarily don't take it to social media with a little bit of sass, but the people talking to me about gas prices, and I just shake my head. I'm just like, I don't know what to say to that because last time I checked, I have no control over that. So bye. I just, you know what I
And
mean?
there you
And
go.
and I feel like it's almost a human flaw that we want to bathe in each other's misery.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is gonna be a long day. Yeah, it's gonna be a long day. Or oh man, those gas prices. Yeah, those gas prices.
Yeah, those gas
It's like
prices.
what are we actually talking about? And is it actually helping? And is us sitting here griping about it making a difference?
How is this in any way helping your needle forward?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not as it's not selfish, but it's really truthful. Like, how is us entertaining this conversation about stuff that we have absolutely no control on in any way helpful to either one of us?
Like the weather. Is there a more boring conversation than the weather?
It's a go-to conversation. Like, how was your job? Did you see this last show last night? Like, what do you do? It was like, did you see the weather? Oh, the traffic. Oh man, that traffic.
So do you participate in it? Be honest.
Nope.
Don't. So what do you do?
Nope.
So what do you
Nope.
do? Let's role
I
play. Let's
just
role play. Let's role play.
mm,
Eh, bonjour, ça va, Olivier? I don't know how to say.
mm-hmm.
How is? Did you see the gas prices this morning en français? Did you
No,
see the gas prices this morning?
not really.
You mean you drove all the way to work? You passed all the gas stations. You didn't
No,
see it?
I just show up, I just pay for it, and I just move on to it. It's like, it goes up, it goes down. From what I know about gas prices, they fluctuate. Like, I don't I just had to get to work, dude.
Oh, doesn't it frustrate you though? The government, man, the government's out to get us. I don't understand. We have all this fuel and oil in Canada. Why are we just sending it other places? This government just hates me.
Well, you have to understand that I basically come from a place where dictators were actually at the helm of the government, and gas prices were actually 60 units per gallon. So when I see $2 or $3 a gallon, it doesn't really phase me. So for me, gas is gas. I just need to get to where I'm going. I'm favorable enough to actually be able to afford it. The day I can't afford it is another conversation, but I don't really lose sleep over that.
Oh
Those are my
well.
actual words.
Uh, okay, I should get to work. I'll see you at lunch and I'll talk to you about the weather.
Yep. Yeah. Well, seriously, like, sometimes, like, people call me too abrupt, but they know me. They know Ali's a really nice person, but when it's not the time or the place, it's not rude anymore. I stop feeling bad about that because it's a disservice to you, and it's hypocritical of me to not help us both by not entertaining this thing, which I know is of no use to either one of us. So no, you know what? No, not the point.
I feel like it's some people take it like they take offense to it. It's almost like
Oh, you're the crazy one.
you're you're at a fast food restaurant and you're the one eating a salad. And
Yeah.
they're like, how dare you eat a salad? Like you are that's offensive.
We're all upset. How come you're not upset? We all care. How come you don't care? So
Yeah.
I guess I'm the weird one, and I'm okay with that. You know.
And I love being the weird one. I think it's the coolest job
Oh,
in the
it's so
world.
cool. It is so cool. It's like seeing things from a whole other perspective. Like, oh, okay. And it's not being condescending. It's not being, offensive, really. It's just being very clear on where you stand. I'm not telling that you have to. I'm just telling
Hmm.
you this is where I am because I can only do me. I can't do
Hmm.
you. I can only do
Hmm.
me.
Hmm. Love that. Before we wrap this up, it's been almost an hour, which is crazy because it flies by so quickly, and I could
Dude,
do this
no kidding.
every week.
I didn't even see that. Wow.
Yeah, and I want to respect your time, and I want to get to bed because, much like you, my alarm goes off at 4:15, and if I'm not in bed before 9:30, I ain't getting
It's
up. That's
heavy.
just
It's heavy. I
facts.
get
That's
it. I
straight
get it.
facts. Um, I did want to take a moment to talk about fatherhood, talk about relationships,
Hmm.
because it's something that you and I have in common. Obviously, you're a bit ahead of me on the track in regards to ages, um, but it's still very real. You're in it
Oh
in a
yeah.
big way.
Oh yeah.
Um, just share some stories with me and the listeners about things that you've done that you think really work to help you have a fighting chance at being a great dad and a partner, and maybe share some stories where um, you can be a bit vulnerable and say, man, I dropped the ball, or I could be better, I should be better.
Well, let's do both. So on the front end, I the first thing I have to tell every single dad, just talking to dads or parents, but I'm really talking to dads because I've taken a lot of interest in men's work and men's groups. So for every dad out there, as I often like to say, near or far, you are not mom 2.0. So your job is not to replace the mom. Your job is to be the dad. And what that means could be different for different people. But for me, was to be very present, very accessible, very reliable, and very transparent with the kids. So for me, it was about doing a lot of things that my dad didn't do, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. My dad didn't do diapers, as far as I know. My dad didn't read bedtime stories, as far as I know. My dad was all about providing. My dad was the quintessential, male. He was the head of a household. He was doing stuff that I now understand that he had to do, to support our family. And that's okay. I do not judge him for that. But, my father didn't do my sister's hair, and it's also because it was a societal thing. Men don't do certain things. But for me, I came to Canada with a different reality and a different, assumption of what I wanted to be as a father. So you have to define what values that you base your fatherhood on. For me, it was presence, it was accessibility, it was reliability. My kids know that as much as I can be like, the court jester and the clown, daddy will also be the authority. What I mean by the authority, like, listen, there are rules. These are the parameters, and we are clear about that. This is a mutual understanding. You're not too old to, you're not too young or too responsible to understand certain things, but this is what I expect of you. And kids are not dumb. Kids are not stupid. Kids are not puppies. They are human beings and individuals. So as such, you need to understand yourself and bring yourself down to their level. So when we speak to them, I kneel. When I need to, have a stern conversation with them, I kneel down, I get to their level. Like, do you understand why we're having this difficult moment right now? Do you understand why daddy has to take this away? Do you understand why daddy's upset? Or do you understand what you did wrong? This is how do you think we should solve this? And when the gavel has to drop, I don't negotiate. 7:30 is bedtime. You know what? You do this, you pick up your clothes because I said so. Like, no, did you pick up your clothes? No, I didn't. Go back. Like, but daddy, I'm at the table. Go pick him back up. It's like, no, but babes, like, no, we're no. So discipline is primary. It's not a buzzword. Again, you run your household. I will not tell you how to run your household because, but also I understand from my own personal script that kids need structure. Kids need guidance. Kids need also understanding, love, patience, and compassion because you understand that they don't know everything, even though they think they do. But you also need to also unlearn the wrong parts of your own script, all right? Because you are raising a future woman. You are raising someone's wife or partner. You're raising someone's husband, or partner, and you need to understand that, what? You don't live in their world, but you need to help them make as much sense of it as you can. And
Mm.
also understand that there are things that you don't understand. And I'm going to be very open on this platform because you know what? I was raised in a very macho and discriminating society about the LGBTQ, so far Haiti is making, good strides in that regard. But I was not raised into the entire concept of having to explain to my kids, how come you have two moms? How come my friend has two moms? How come my friend has two dads? I
Mm-hmm.
was not raised in that environment. It's something that I had to learn to explain, not just to accept for myself, which I do. I've officiated, same-sex weddings, but to my kids and explain to them at school, yeah, sure. How come she has two moms? And I have to like, because it's okay. And, love is love and it's totally fine. And we don't judge, do we? So it's like, do they love each other? Do their mommies love each other? Does that make them less of a, no, see, I have that dialogue, but you have to catch yourself like, oh yeah, this is foreign to me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you also have to be honest with your kids about what you do, what you don't know. Um, and where I fall short sometimes is also because sometimes I understand that growing up with my own environment, I've been so used to being the first son and the male and take on the role that my father had. with his own siblings. The fact that I didn't share a lot, you know, my father didn't share a lot, but didn't want to make that mistake with my kids. He didn't share a lot growing up because he was raised military. But for myself, I allowed myself to be very vulnerable with my kids, which was an effort, you know. Like I said, I was always very self-reliant. So, telling them daddy's sad, daddy's not having a good day. Even just yesterday, I told him, my daughter came up to me like, Daddy, you don't look okay. Are you okay? I was like, babe, someone I really care about is really sick and I don't know what to do because I can't do anything. And that makes me sad. And they both just came up and gave me a hug. They didn't say anything, but I'm sorry, daddy. And they walked away. I was like, wow, that made me feel good, you know? And I parallel that with my dad's like, that would not happen with my dad. Like I said,
Mm,
smartest guy I know, but that would not have happened with him.
mm,
We just like understand that, okay, dad is just frowning and he's frowning and just like, okay, we love him still, you know?
mm.
So yeah, I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that intimate look into being a father. Um, I would say it's the most rewarding, poorest paying job that I've ever had, but it pays in the intangibles, right?
Oh, it will teach you so many things,
Oh my gosh.
especially, not self-sacrifice, but selflessness. It would
Mm,
definitely teach you that in
mm,
spades.
big time. Okay, before I let you go, I'm gonna
My guy.
roll out the proverbial red carpet for you to the multitude of listeners that are tuning back into the Brad Bodnarchuk podcast that are also fans of yours. Words of wisdom, a quote you want to share, something inspiring, gas price talk, anything you want to share. The table is set. It is yours. Go.
I want to be practical. First of all, I want to thank you, brother, for opening up the space. It's a pleasure to reconnect with you. This was long overdue, pandemic be damned, but I want to thank you for being such a great supporter, great friend. We have yet, I know, to share a physical space together, but you know that there is nothing but love, respect, and admiration from wherever these words find you, brother. I really want to thank you for everything that you're doing, all the support, both on and offline. It's immensely appreciated. And the reality checks are always appreciated because I need that kind of support right now, just to further our goals moving forward. And you have a friend in me. Words of wisdom, I want to remain very practical. I want people to take this home and do something that can actually really, really help them. Please be very careful what you allow into your mental space. And what I mean by that, not all shows are worth it. YouTube is, YouTube, social media, books, magazines, music. You really got to be very protective of what you allow into your mental real estate because you may not know it, but in very, very small incremental ways, it does limit you. It does hinder you and it does infect you in more ways than you can think of. So be proactive into what you allow inside your mind, whether what you read, whether what you tell yourself, the conversation that you entertain, that has immense impact into your future journey. So get in the habit of reading stuff that actually builds you and elevates you and teaches you and allows you to push forward rather than just like sit around and mull over and just for pure shtick. And I like cartoons. I watch cartoons. I still watch Batman cartoons with my kids, but that's family time. But in terms of my own personal growth, I am very aware that what happens inside my brain has an immense impact on how the reality I build around myself. So I invite you to be very cautious and be aware of what you allow inside your mental space. It's not always easy, but it is possible.
Love it. Protect that energy, folks. Um, that's it, man. That was an hour, and I appreciate you more than you know. Let's do it again. Let's do it.
Always,
Let's
always here
do
for
it
you, brother.
often. Have an incredible day. If people haven't already checked you out on your podcast, it is Awaken the Awesome Podcast. And on social media, you are what?
ATA podcast. That's Instagram. That's the best place to find me. So ATA for Awaken the Awesome, ATA podcast. I do have the personal page, so you can always find at I am Olivier D. But those are the two handles. But ATA podcast is the podcast page, and yeah, that's mostly where I'm mostly active.
Love it, dude. Have an incredible evening. Give
Love you,
your
brother.
children and your beautiful queen love from us. As I always say, love and light from my host to yours. Be good to yourself and be good to others. And you guys know what to do. Until next time, it's be good and do good as well. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. It means the world to me. And if it wasn't for you, well, just be Olivier and I chatting, which actually would be totally fine. I wouldn't really mind that at all. It just so happens that you guys get to be in on the conversation. So thank you all for listening, tuning in, and if you could, as they say, smash that like button, subscribe, and all those things.
Subscribe.
Help that podcast grow. That's it, dude. Have an incredible evening, and let's do it again.
Sure, brother. Thank you so much. Had a really great time. Guys,
Cheers,
stay
man.
safe.